What if I told you there's a way to stay calm and in control, no matter how frustrating someone gets? In this video, you'll discover 5 Stoic strategies that will transform how you deal with difficult people, helping you keep your cool and protect your peace. If you've ever felt drained by someone else's negativity, you can't afford to miss this. Stick around, because the last strategy might be the one that changes everything for you. Number 1. Control your reactions. Imagine this. You're in a meeting, and a colleague is tearing apart your ideas with harsh, unconstructive criticism. Your heart races, your face flushes, and every instinct tells you to snap back with a sharp retort. But instead of reacting impulsively, picture yourself taking a deep breath, pausing for a moment, and then responding with calmness and clarity. This pause, this moment of control, is where the first Stoic strategy comes into play. Controlling your reactions. The Stoics believe that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote is a powerful reminder that our true power lies not in changing the external circumstances, but in mastering our internal responses. Consider this. How many times have you found yourself regretting something you said or did in the heat of the moment? How often has an emotional reaction led to a situation spiraling out of control? The challenge we face isn't just dealing with difficult people, it's dealing with the emotions they trigger within us. Emotions that can cloud our judgment and lead us down a path we might later wish we had avoided. But here's an unexpected twist. Controlling your reactions doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about acknowledging your emotions, understanding them, and then choosing a response that aligns with your values and long-term goals. This is where Stoicism offers a profound and often overlooked insight. It's not the event itself that disturbs us, but our interpretation of it. This concept, deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, suggests that the way we frame a situation in our minds has a far greater impact on our emotional state than the situation itself. When you master this technique, you gain a sense of inner peace and resilience that remains unshaken, no matter how chaotic the situation around you becomes. Let's break this down into practical terms. Imagine you're driving, and someone cuts you off aggressively, nearly causing an accident. The immediate surge of anger is natural. Your heart pounds, your hands grip the steering wheel tighter, and perhaps a few choice words spring to mind. But instead of letting that anger take over, what if you paused for a second, took a deep breath, and reframed the situation? Maybe that driver is rushing to the hospital or just having a terrible day. By choosing not to react with anger, you not only protect your peace of mind, but also avoid escalating a potentially dangerous situation. This is what the Stoics called prowess, the ability to choose your response, to act with reason rather than react with emotion. Relating this back to your everyday life, think of those moments when someone's words or actions have triggered an immediate, negative reaction in you, whether it's a colleague undermining your efforts, a friend making a hurtful comment, or even a stranger's rudeness. Your initial reaction might be to strike back, to defend yourself, or to let the anger fester. But what if, instead, you chose to pause? What if you recognized that your reaction is within your control, that you have the power to decide how this moment will affect you? By controlling your reactions, you take control of your own happiness, your own peace of mind, rather than handing it over to someone else's bad behavior or thoughtlessness. To make this strategy even more actionable, let's incorporate a practice that Stoics often used, the evening reflection. At the end of each day, take a few moments to review how you responded to the challenges you faced. Did you maintain control over your reactions, or were there moments when your emotions got the better of you? Reflect on what triggered those reactions and how you might handle similar situations differently in the future. This practice, known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, helps you prepare mentally for future challenges by imagining how you might react and how you can maintain your composure. In doing this, you'll find that over time, controlling your reactions becomes second nature. You'll start to notice that situations that once triggered a strong emotional response no longer have the same power over you. You'll feel more in control, not just of your reactions, but of your life as a whole. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, finding freedom not by changing the world around you, but by changing your relationship with it. When you can control your reactions, you find a strength that comes not from external circumstances, but from within yourself. And that strength, once developed, is unshakable. Number 2, practice empathy and understanding. Now, imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument with a friend or family member. Voices are raised, the tension is palpable, and it feels like you're both talking past each other, neither one truly listening. Suddenly, in the midst of this verbal battle, you pause and ask yourself, what's really going on here? What is this person feeling? And why are they reacting this way? This simple pause is the gateway to the second Stoic strategy. Practice empathy and understanding. The Stoics taught that everyone is fighting their own battles, often invisible to those around them. By understanding this, we can soften our judgments and approach others with a more compassionate heart. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This quote encapsulates the essence of Stoic empathy. It's not about condoning bad behavior, but about recognizing the complex mix of emotions, fears, and experiences that drive that behavior. The challenge, then, is to see beyond the surface, to look past the anger, the frustration, or the rudeness, and connect with the humanity that lies beneath. Here's where the unexpected twist comes in. Practicing empathy is not about agreeing with the other person, nor is it about letting yourself be a doormat. It's about seeing the world through their eyes, even if just for a moment, and understanding what might be driving their actions. This shift in perspective can diffuse tension and open the door to more meaningful communication. But empathy isn't just a tool for understanding others. It's also a tool for understanding yourself. When you empathize with someone else's pain, stress, or frustration, it becomes easier to not take their behavior personally. This, in turn, frees you from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies difficult interactions. Let's bring this into a more relatable context. Think about the last time someone snapped at you seemingly out of nowhere. Maybe it was a coworker who was unusually curt in an email, or a cashier who seemed irritated when you asked a simple question. Your initial reaction might have been annoyance or even anger. After all, why should you be treated that way? But what if, instead of reacting, you took a moment to consider what might be going on in their life? Maybe that coworker is dealing with overwhelming stress, or the cashier just received some bad news. By practicing empathy, you shift the focus from your own reaction to the other person's experience, creating space for understanding and compassion. To deepen your practice of empathy, try this. The next time you're in a conversation, especially one that's becoming heated, make a conscious effort to listen more than you speak. Really listen, not just to the words being said, but to the emotions behind them. What is this person truly expressing? What fears, concerns, or needs are driving their words? Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself to consider the struggles and challenges faced by others, to remember that we all share the same human experience, filled with pain, joy, fear, and hope. By doing this, you create a connection that transcends the immediate conflict, allowing for a more meaningful and compassionate interaction. But let's not stop there. Practicing empathy also means extending that understanding to yourself. We are often our own harshest critics, quick to judge ourselves for our perceived failures and shortcomings. The Stoics, however, encourage self-compassion alongside self-discipline. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, taught that we should treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we offer to others. When you make a mistake or fall short of your own expectations, ask yourself, would I be this harsh if a friend were in my shoes? Often, the answer is no. By practicing empathy both outwardly and inwardly, you create a balanced approach to life that fosters both growth and kindness. In the real world, empathy can transform even the most difficult relationships. It can turn a contentious debate into a constructive dialogue, a frustrating encounter into a learning experience, and a conflict into an opportunity for growth. But empathy requires practice. It's not something that comes naturally in every situation, especially when emotions are running high. Yet, the more you practice, the easier it becomes, and the more natural it feels. Imagine the impact this could have on your relationships. Instead of being reactive, you become responsive. Instead of judging, you seek to understand. And in doing so, you not only improve your interactions with others, but also enhance your own sense of peace and well-being. This is the power of empathy. It connects us to others and to ourselves in a way that is both profound and transformative. Number 3. Maintain perspective. Picture yourself at the end of a long, exhausting day. You've just settled down to relax when suddenly you receive an email that throws you into a panic. It's from your boss, and the tone is sharp, critical, and filled with disappointment. Your mind starts racing. What did you do wrong? Are you about to lose your job? As the anxiety builds, it feels like the walls are closing in. But then, you remember the third Stoic strategy, maintaining perspective. The Stoics believed that many of our problems come not from the events themselves, but from our distorted perceptions of those events. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself to keep things in perspective, to see things as they truly are, rather than through the lens of fear or anxiety. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This principle is central to Stoic thought. Our minds are the lens through which we view the world, and by keeping that lens clear and focused, we can navigate life's challenges with calm and clarity. But here's the twist. Maintaining perspective is about more than just staying calm in the face of adversity. It's about zooming out, seeing the bigger picture, and asking yourself, will this matter in a week, in a month, in a year? Often, the answer is no. This simple shift can deflate the pressure, helping you approach the situation with a calm, rational mind. Epictetus, a former slave who became a renowned Stoic teacher, often emphasized this point. He taught that it's not what happens to us, but how we choose to interpret and respond to what happens that determines our experience of life. Let's bring this into a more practical scenario. Think back to the last time you received unexpected bad news. Maybe it was a critical comment from a superior, a setback in a project, or a personal disappointment. Your initial reaction might have been panic or despair, as your mind immediately jumped to the worst-case scenario. But what if, instead of letting your emotions take over, you paused and considered the bigger picture? What if you asked yourself whether this setback, which seems so significant in the moment, will still matter in the long run? To make this concept even more tangible, consider this analogy. Imagine you're looking at a painting up close, your nose just inches from the canvas. All you can see are the tiny brushstrokes, the imperfections, and the details that seem disjointed and chaotic. But when you step back, the full picture comes into view, and those seemingly random brushstrokes reveal a masterpiece. Life is much the same. When we're too close to our problems, they can seem overwhelming and all-consuming. But when we step back and view them in the context of our entire life, they often shrink in significance. Maintaining perspective is also about recognizing the impermanence of most problems. The Stoics were acutely aware of the transient nature of life. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that both good and bad times are fleeting, that everything is in a constant state of change. By remembering this, we can avoid becoming too attached to our current circumstances, whether they are positive or negative. This detachment doesn't mean indifference, but rather a balanced approach to life's ups and downs. Now, think about how this applies to your daily life. How often do you let minor inconveniences or temporary setbacks ruin your day? Maybe it's a traffic jam that makes you late for a meeting, or a critical comment that lingers in your mind, casting a shadow over the rest of your day. By maintaining perspective, you remind yourself that these moments are just small blips in the grand scheme of things. They don't define you, and they certainly don't have the power to dictate your happiness unless you allow them to. One practical way to cultivate perspective is through the Stoic exercise of negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This involves imagining the worst-case scenario, not to dwell on it, but to prepare yourself mentally for challenges and to appreciate what you have. By contemplating what could go wrong, you're better equipped to handle setbacks with grace and composure. And when things don't go as badly as you imagined, you're left with a sense of relief and gratitude. In conclusion, maintaining perspective is about stepping back, seeing the bigger picture, and recognizing the transient nature of most of our problems. It's about choosing how you interpret and respond to life's challenges, rather than letting them overwhelm you. By doing so, you gain not only a sense of inner peace, but also the clarity to make better decisions and to navigate life's ups and downs with resilience and grace. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, finding strength not in controlling the world around you, but in mastering the world within you. And when you can do that, no problem, no matter how difficult, can shake your inner equilibrium. Number 4, set boundaries. Imagine this scenario. You're at a family gathering, and a relative starts pressing you about personal matters you'd rather not discuss. The conversation becomes increasingly uncomfortable, and you feel trapped, unsure of how to gracefully exit the situation without causing tension. This is where the 4th Stoic strategy comes into play: setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential not just for protecting your emotional and mental well-being, but for maintaining healthy relationships as well. The Stoics recognized that while we can't control how others behave, we can control what we tolerate and how we choose to interact with them. Epictetus famously said, "Know, first, who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." This advice is a reminder that understanding yourself and your limits is crucial to living a life aligned with your values. Without boundaries, we risk losing ourselves in the expectations and demands of others. But here's the twist. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out or being rigid. It's about creating a space where mutual respect can thrive. It's about knowing where your limits lie and communicating them clearly and calmly. Often, we avoid setting boundaries out of fear of conflict, fear of being perceived as difficult, or fear of hurting others' feelings. However, failing to establish boundaries often leads to resentment and burnout, which can damage relationships far more than a straightforward conversation about limits ever could. Now, let's bring this concept into a more relatable context. Think about a time when you agreed to something you didn't really want to do. Maybe it was taking on extra work, attending a social event, or lending someone money. You said yes out of a sense of obligation or guilt, but afterward, you felt drained, resentful, or even a little angry. That's a clear sign that a boundary has been crossed. The challenge, then, is to recognize these moments and take steps to protect your own well-being by setting clear, firm, but respectful boundaries. The Stoics believed that part of living a virtuous life is being honest with yourself and others about what you can and cannot accept. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of focusing on what is within our control and letting go of what is not. By setting boundaries, you're taking control of your own life and making conscious choices about where you direct your energy. This doesn't mean you're being selfish. It means you're being mindful of your own needs so that you can show up fully and authentically in your relationships. Let's dig deeper into how you can practically set boundaries in your daily life. Start by identifying the areas where you feel your boundaries are being tested. Is it at work, where you're constantly being asked to take on more than you can handle? Is it in your personal life, where friends or family members are overstepping their welcome or demanding too much of your time? Once you've identified these areas, think about what you need to feel more balanced and respected. Maybe it's saying no to additional work, limiting your availability for social events, or having a frank conversation with a loved one about what you're comfortable discussing. To communicate these boundaries, use I statements that focus on your own needs rather than placing blame on others. For example, instead of saying, "You always dump extra work on me," you could say, "I'm currently at capacity with my workload and won't be able to take on additional tasks." This approach is assertive without being confrontational, and it makes it clear that your boundary is about your own limits, not a judgment of the other person's behavior. Another key aspect of setting boundaries is consistency. Once you've established a boundary, it's important to stick to it. This consistency reinforces the boundary and makes it clear that you're serious about protecting your time, energy, and well-being. It can be challenging at first, especially if you're used to putting others' needs before your own. But over time, it becomes easier and more natural, and the benefits are immense. You'll feel more in control of your life, less stressed, and more energized to engage in relationships and activities that truly matter to you. It's also worth noting that setting boundaries can actually improve your relationships. When you're clear about your limits, others don't have to guess or worry about overstepping, which can lead to more honest and respectful interactions. In fact, by setting boundaries, you're modeling healthy behavior for those around you, showing them that it's okay to prioritize their own needs as well. This can create a ripple effect, encouraging others to set their own boundaries and fostering an environment of mutual respect and understanding. Lastly, consider the Stoic practice of reflection as a tool for reinforcing your boundaries. At the end of each day, take a few moments to review how well you upheld your boundaries. Did you stick to them? Or were there moments when you let them slide? If so, what was the impact on your mood, energy levels, and relationships? By reflecting on these experiences, you can learn from them and strengthen your resolve to maintain your boundaries in the future. In conclusion, setting boundaries is not about being harsh or unyielding. It's about respecting yourself and others by clearly communicating your limits. It's about taking control of your life and ensuring that your interactions are based on mutual respect and understanding. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes not from avoiding difficulties, but from facing them with clarity, courage, and wisdom. By setting boundaries, you create a space where you can thrive, where you can engage with others from a place of strength and authenticity, and where you can live a life that is truly your own. Number 5. Focus on virtue. Picture yourself in a situation where someone is treating you unfairly. Maybe it's a boss who's taking credit for your work, a friend who's spreading rumors about you, or a stranger who's just being outright rude. The injustice stings, and you feel the urge to retaliate, to defend yourself, to set the record straight. But then, you remember the fifth and final Stoic strategy, focusing on virtue. The Stoics believe that our ultimate goal in life should be to live virtuously, no matter what external circumstances we face. Virtue, in Stoic terms, means living in accordance with reason and nature, acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself that the only thing truly within our control is our own character and actions. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This quote highlights the essence of focusing on virtue, responding to life's challenges not with anger or resentment, but with integrity and grace. But here's the twist. Focusing on virtue doesn't mean passively accepting mistreatment or injustice. Instead, it means choosing to respond in a way that reflects your highest values, rather than being dragged down by the negativity of others. It's about rising above the situation, not by ignoring it, but by addressing it from a place of strength and moral clarity. When you focus on virtue, you're not just protecting your own peace of mind. You're also setting an example for others, showing them what it means to live with dignity and purpose. Let's bring this into a more everyday context. Think about a time when someone wronged you, perhaps in a way that felt deeply personal. Your immediate reaction might have been to lash out, to seek revenge, or to hold a grudge. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused and asked yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this situation? How can I act in a way that aligns with my values? By focusing on virtue, you shift the focus from the wrong that was done to you to the right that you can do in response. One of the key aspects of focusing on virtue is the practice of self-reflection. The Stoics believed that regularly examining your thoughts and actions is essential to living a virtuous life. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, advised his followers to end each day by reviewing their actions. We must inspect our lives and ensure that we never slip into habits unworthy of us. This practice of self-reflection allows you to align your actions with your values consistently, even in the face of adversity. To put this into practice, try this exercise. The next time you're faced with a difficult person or situation, take a moment to reflect on the virtues that are most important to you. Is it honesty, kindness, patience, or courage? How can you embody those virtues in your response? For example, if honesty is a core value for you, how can you communicate your feelings or concerns in a truthful yet respectful manner? If patience is important to you, how can you practice restraint in the heat of the moment? Focusing on virtue also means understanding that your actions are a reflection of your character, not a reaction to someone else's behavior. When you choose to act virtuously, you're taking responsibility for your own life, rather than letting others dictate how you should feel or behave. This is a powerful shift in mindset, one that can transform how you approach every challenge, big or small. Moreover, focusing on virtue can help you maintain your integrity. Even when it's difficult, it's easy to compromise your values when you're under pressure or when you feel wronged. But the Stoics taught that true strength lies in staying true to yourself, even when it's hard. By holding fast to your virtues, you not only protect your own sense of self-worth, but you also inspire others to do the same. Finally, let's consider the long-term impact of focusing on virtue. When you consistently choose to act with integrity, you build a reputation as someone who can be trusted, respected, and admired. This not only enhances your relationships with others, but also deepens your own sense of inner peace and fulfillment. Over time, living a virtuous life becomes its own reward, a source of joy and contentment that cannot be shaken by external events. In conclusion, focusing on virtue is about choosing to live in alignment with your highest values, no matter what challenges you face. It's about responding to life's difficulties with wisdom, courage, and grace, rather than being swayed by the negativity of others. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the actions of others, we can always control our own responses. By focusing on virtue, you not only navigate life's challenges with dignity, but you also cultivate a deep, unshakable sense of inner peace. This is the ultimate Stoic wisdom. To live a life of virtue is to live a life of true freedom and fulfillment. Subscribe and stay on the path.